Hi, and welcome back to Thinking Kingdom Thoughts. I'm Tracy, and today's show is about Newlyweds and Torah. Thank you for coming. Today's guests are Adam and Jordan Celeste. Did I get that right? Solace. I knew. I'm so sorry. So Solace. They are parents to two beautiful daughters and expecting Jordan's first pregnancy this fall. Adam is part of the safety and security team and singer for Grafted Church, and also a truck driver. Jordan is a dancer for Grafted Church and also a stay-at-home mama. So Adam, would you lead us out in a prayer, please?
Father Yahweh, Most High God, Father, we thank you for this day that you've made. Father, we lift up your name and we bless your name. Father, I pray that you can, be in our midst as we have this discussion, Father, that you can guide the conversation by your Spirit. Father, we're so thankful for just getting to spend time with brothers and sisters, and I just pray that you, in all the conversation points that we have in this time, that you can guide it, and most importantly, we thank you for Yeshua and his sacrifice, Father. We thank you and we praise you in the name of Yeshua.
Amen. That was a good prayer, Adam. Very good prayer. I know, I always have to straighten this mess out, not that it's going to get fixed any better than it was. So, I'll present the question, and I'll, maybe you can answer first and then Jordan. How long has your walk been with Yah?
So, I would say about 2015 is when I started. Had a difficult couple of years, fell away for a while. But then when me and Jordan got together back in 2018, I felt the call to come back thanks to prayer warriors at Grafted, actually, because of my mother.
Yeah.
I know you probably knew about that.
Oh, yeah.
Bit, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but because of that, Yah was faithful, and he was calling me back, and I think it was the beginning of 2019 is when we started to try to follow him, follow Yeshua and keep his commandments. So.
Yeah.
I grew up in church, so I've been going to church my whole life, but I was not, I was very much in the world. And so I first came to Christ whenever I was 18, like late 17, 18. Had a really wonderful experience with the Holy Spirit. But I didn't really know where to go from there. So I just kind of went back into the world and called myself a Christian, but I was very lukewarm. And then Adam and I came to Torah together, and I would say that's when I really dedicated my life to Christ, was whenever we started following this way. And that was 2019. Yeah, we were kind of exploring that and came to it, I would say 2019.
Yeah. What's your kingdom thoughts during difficult times? And again, we'll go with Adam and then Jordan. And you might want to speak up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so, let me think. In difficult times for me, one of the things that I think about a lot, and I can't think of the specific scripture, but it says, "Not by power nor by might, but by my Spirit," says the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it's in Zechariah, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But just knowing that there's nothing I can do to change the situation, there's nothing I can do to alter it. outside of what I can physically do. But when there's things outside of my control, I just have to know that Yah will be there, and whatever He chooses to do in this situation, I need to be okay with. Obviously, put in my effort, but sometimes things are just hard, and I can't exactly change them by my own power. So I have to rely on Him. Obviously, a big one that a lot of people talk about is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Or even when Paul talks about I forgot which epistle, honestly, but when he had the thorn in his side, and he says, that Yah told him that His grace is sufficient for him, that through His weakness He is strong. Though I am weak, I am strong. So especially in tough times, and I'm sure we've all had plenty of those, but I lean on those things. Basically, just talking about how Yah will be there for us in the tough times and the good times, and being followers of Yeshua, it's not always easy. We're not called, it's not called to be an easy life. So, I kind of knew that as I counted the cost coming into this, that it's not a walk in the park. It can be tough, but we know that if we rely on Him, that we can make it through any situation. So
yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's really a good testimony of it too. So how you work it out. What about you, Jordan?
I would say, I think obviously prayer is huge. I think whenever I am struggling, I just need to remember that what I'm going through is really not that difficult. And even though it seems difficult in the moment, nothing's too big for our King.
Yeah.
And I focus a lot on the fruits of the Spirit. I love reminding myself of the fruits of the Spirit because I feel like I'm always needing to work on at least one of them, usually multiple. But those are kind of what I revert to: prayer, fruits of the Spirit, in all walks of life, whether it's hard or whether it's easy. How can I grow, or how can I better myself using these things? So.
Right. I love that. And another thing that I do, I was reminded when you said that, is I try to thank Him first thing. Because there's a lesson in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
That I need to change something in me and improve me, and it's going to be a good thing when it ends.
Right.
So even though it looks terrible, I still thank Him.
Right.
Because the end result's going to be beautiful.
Right.
And it's the labor pains before the baby comes,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
relatable.
Do you think that happened during the honeymoon?
No, it happened a little bit after.
Yeah.
Not too long, but
Right.
after the honeymoon.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. How did you get started with Torah observance?
So, mine's kind of a long story.
Take your time, because
So,
we've got the time.
Not to get into too much detail, but I was in a very, very low place when I left college. I had a really, it's very, very, anyway, sorry. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I left college in a bad place. I left, kind of cowardly from some situations I was dealing with, and came back to the city. My parents had a rent house that they were gracious enough to let us move into because we were dirt poor. Me and my ex-wife. We were dirt poor with a newborn baby and I think she was 3 at that time, Mia. struggling back and forth because I went to a Christian university, so I was struggling back and forth with, okay, well, at this Christian university, all my friends drink and do all these things, and, you know, a soccer player, and so, you know, athlete mentality. But you also have to go to chapel, so I was constantly getting the word preached at us, but I was also dealing with, you know, wanting to be, you know, cool, like, you know, friends and other teammates and whatnot. So that was back and forth, you know, before we moved back to the city. And then when we moved back to the city, my parents were starting to do all these weird things. I didn't understand what they were doing. And I came over to their house, and they had told us, I think they had told us that they're not going to be doing Christmas anymore. And I was like, you know, I knew I was big into history, so I knew about all different religions and whatnot. I learned a lot about it in college and different, you know, all types of stuff. So, you know, when she started talking about the Sabbath and Passover and all these different things, I'm like, are you guys Jewish now? Like, I know you can convert to Judaism, but is that what you guys are doing? And no, she was like, no, they're not. Yeah, that's a typical thought, right? So she, you know, she just basically laid it out like, you know, we have rules in life, and these are God's rules, and it didn't take much convincing on my part. It was, I think God had brought me down to a point in my life where I was basically rock bottom. You know, I was trying to, after doing all these, you know, being just a bad person, you know, the worst, you know, chief of all sinners, like Paul says. That's, you know, that's who I was. And so I was he brought me down to this point in my life, gave me up to my lusts and my, you know, my desires for this world. And then, you know, through my mom, Yah spoke to me, just simple, like, hey, there's rules you have to follow. You know, do you want to do it? Are you gonna do it? That's basically all it took for me. Like, because I understood, like, that made sense. Structure made sense to me. And as a Christian growing up, like, I grew up, we didn't go to church, but we grew up in a Christian home. So, you know, we believed in Jesus, like all of these types of things. But we didn't really go to church all that much until I was in middle school. And I started going to church to play basketball because there was a community center connected to a church, and I wanted to go play basketball, so I went to church. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But anyways, yeah. So when I was coming into the church, I didn't understand what we're supposed to do, what it meant to be a good Christian and all that. So fast forward 7-8 years, and I had been struggling over those years to be a Christian, to just be a, you know, typical teenager or whatever. And then you become an adult, and then I'm struggling still, and then this comes, and it just, like, it makes so much sense to me. So I jump right in immediately. I'm like, okay, Sabbath. I'm not gonna eat pork anymore. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna keep all these feasts. Christmas is pagan. I like all these different things.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, I was learning. Like, I was just like hungry to learn, and I wanted to follow Yeshua the best I could. And then you know, all the hurt from the past. Yeah, sadly, my relationship, my marriage fell apart, and you know, I know God hates when marriages fall apart, and I did too. I hated it, but a lot of it was my own doing, and so, but because of that, I gave up on God because I wanted to save my marriage at the time, and so. But then immediately it was like I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk away and I'm gonna save this because this is what I want. And then God was like, nope. And that, you know, it like almost immediately fell apart, like for good.
Right.
And then I went about 1.5 to 2 years on I think I went about a year before I met Jordan. I've just, you know, living in the world again, being dumb, and that's during that period when, you know, my mom was talking to the people, to the women specifically at Grafted, and saying,
Yeah.
you know, my son needs prayer. This, you know, he you know, and then God started working on my heart. He brought me to another low point in my life, and you know, I was sitting in a jail cell, and I was just like, I have to come back. I have to stop doing this dumb stuff that I've been doing. And so then shortly after that, literally, I think it was 3 months later, I met Jordan, tried to start living a worldly life with her, and then same thing. God was like, no, you're not listening. Come back. And then, so we celebrated Christmas, and that was the thing for me. Like
we did one Christmas.
We did one Christmas together, and I was just like, I can't do this. It felt horrible.
Yeah, that conviction is
Yeah.
so, it's
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
And
To go from not doing it
yeah.
because of its origins, and then to do it one more time, he was like, no.
Yeah, and it was
Right.
so hard. So after that, we started trying to, you know, like, what do we do? And I tried to start talking to her, and I'll let her talk more about that in a minute. But we did Passover with my parents. You guys were there. I remember that, our first Passover. We didn't do Shavuot, but then that summer was when we started actually attending Grafted in 2019 and becoming part of the church. Then we went to Sukkot with Grafted at Lion and Lamb, and then, you know, now we're family, all of us.
Yeah,
That's
Full
yeah.
it is. It's such a beautiful tribe together.
Mhm.
Amen.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that you had been in jail.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had.
wow.
Very short, just
Yeah.
a couple of days, but it was
Yeah,
more
just
than
enough.
I needed.
More than enough. You're not
More
that
than
dumb.
enough.
That's right. That's good.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have to hit our lowest of lows,
Mhm.
and then we can reach out for him, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Call out from the depths.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So how did you get started with Torah observance, Jordan?
Well, after our one and only Christmas together, Adam was like, so, fun fact, Christmas is terrible and I'm never doing it again. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand. I was kind of mad at him because we had just celebrated. I was like, why didn't you tell me this before Christmas? Because I love it. And Christmas was my favorite holiday. And of course, I mean, that's most people's favorite worldly holiday is Christmas.
Yeah.
And so he was starting to just talk to me about things, and I saw him starting to change. Saw his heart starting to change. He was more patient and started being more kind. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can hear what you have to say. And we were talking, and at one point he was like, well, let's just go over to my parents and we'll watch The Way together.
Uh-huh.
It's this documentary. It'll tell you all everything about what I've been talking about. And this was it before Passover?
Yeah, I think it was just around January, February time of 2019.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was before, I mean, it's somewhere between Christmas and Easter-ish.
And if we can, just like a little plug for that movie, because I don't know if you've seen it, the Way, the documentary.
Yeah.
I think it's by, what's the name? I think it's Kate Abathy is the wife's name. I don't know why I remember that. It's like
I have it here
something
somewhere.
in Kate Abathy. Yeah. It is a great documentary about this movement of Christians that are leaving the normal church to do Bible things in Bible ways, as people like Jim Staley like to say. It is a great. I mean, it's a great documentary for.
It just puts
people,
all of the information together for you. So
Sorry.
when you're trying to, no, you're fine. When you're trying to learn and whenever you're trying to understand.
Or if you're trying to teach let your
Yeah.
family know what you're
Yeah,
doing
this
and
is
why.
what I'm doing. This
Yes.
is
And this
explains
is
it
why,
better.
right? And so it was a great documentary. I had never obviously heard of it. Adam had talked about it, and he was like, "Well, let's go to my parents. Let's have a Shabbat with them, and let's watch this documentary, and it'll kind of help me explain. It'll help explain things better to you in a way that I am not able to explain them." And we watched this documentary, and when we left that night to go home, I was like, I have this unexplainable joy that I have only had once, and that is whenever I first had an encounter with the Holy Spirit when I was 19.
Oh.
And so from that point, I was mourning, leaving
Yes, you do.
the things that I had used to do, I used to love and used to do. But I was also happy, and I was in a content place to move past them and to celebrate and love our King the way that He desires us to. And since then, I did go to my family's Easter that year, but not to celebrate with them. It was more just so they understood I wasn't going to come to any future ones. And I felt really guilty being there the entire time.
Right.
I left early. I got late.
I don't even think I went.
No, you didn't go.
Yeah.
I got there late. I ended up leaving early, and I just felt convicted the whole time, like I don't want to be here. And then we did Passover, either right before that or right after that. And yeah, it was. I mean, it's usually right around that Easter time. But yeah, from then on, we did Passover. I don't think we fully understood unleavened bread or first fruits or how to do it, so we didn't really do that.
Yeah.
We recognized that they existed.
Going to Grafted just yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we started going to Grafted right after my car accident in August, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I had a car accident in July, and then we started going to Grafted in August, and then we did the fall feast. So
Wow.
it's been almost 3 full years
Wow.
of feasts.
Oh, almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Wow, that's beautiful.
No.
I love that.
Yeah, 3 feasts. 3 full years of feasts.
Something
Something. I don't
I'm
know.
getting ready to go on your 4th one. If you look back on counting
like
your
that. This will be our 3rd Sukkot.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is our 3rd Sukkot, or this is our 3rd fall feast.
yeah.
Yes.
It's a good way to word it too, because we sometimes forget because we get so
Right.
excited about
I know.
the Feast of Tabernacles, and
Right.
Yeah.
so it's real easy to walk over. But they're all the feasts for Him. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Is there examples of newlyweds in Scripture?
We were talking about this.
Yeah, we were.
You brought up Mary and Joseph.
Well, yes, I did talk about Mary and Joseph.
Right.
That's a great example.
I think that was the best example we came
Yeah.
up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary and Joseph, even though they technically weren't consummated, they were betrothed, and he was going to divorce her privately, secretly, as to not shame her. What else? There's Isaac and Rebecca.
Boaz and Ruth.
Yeah, Boaz
Yeah.
and Ruth. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
There's several.
There's
Yeah.
several examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them point to Yeshua in some way.
They
Yes.
do.
Yeah, that's
100%.
beautiful
Just
too.
like that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's kind of his heritage.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why they're included in the Bibles, because it's part of his heritage and
Yeah.
everything leading and pointing to him.
Well, and they all point to Yeshua and his bride, which is
Yeah.
the church. So
Well, and if I can for just a second, I was
Sure.
just thinking about this with the story of Isaac, and I believe I may be getting names wrong, sorry, but Isaac and Rebecca. You get this idea of Abraham sending his servant to go find Abraham the father sending his servant or his helper to go find a bride for his son in a far country.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get that picture of father sending the spirit to get a bride, to prepare a bride for the son.
Yes,
And
sure.
the son, or if we look back to Abraham's, in this specific story of Abraham, and with Isaac and Rebekah, the servant that is sent is not, he's not named, but most likely it's Eleazar
Right.
of
Yeah.
Damascus, and that means God is my help.
Wow.
And so it's like the helper, and the New Testament talks about like he will send the helper after he goes back to the Father. And so it's these interesting tie-ins. It's like
Yes.
this idea of Father, Son, Spirit going to get the bride, and then you get
That's
the Boaz and
beautiful.
Ruth.
Yeah.
The Boaz and Ruth, the kinsman redeemer.
Yeah.
Just like Ruth is a Moabite, of the nations, but she wants to be grafted in, if you will, to Israel,
Yeah.
and she needs someone to be that next of kin to redeem her back to her people, and that's another picture of Yeshua as our kinsman redeemer. And so it's like all these beautiful pictures. I just thought of it too. That's awesome. With the
Yeah.
whole newlywed stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, that really is.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to share with others, that one. That's very, well, you'll reach out to several. You got the World Wide Web there that
Right.
you've been able to share that with.
Yeah.
So, did you have a while to plan your wedding? It was absolutely gorgeous. Oh,
It's
that
all
was
thanks
a
to her.
beautiful
She
wedding.
did everything.
I was working a job that allowed me a lot of free time.
Yes.
And so, yes, we had 14 months to the day from
the
the
day,
proposal to the wedding.
Wow.
It
We
was,
got married 14 months.
October 17th, 2019 to December 17th of 2020.
We had quite a bit of time.
2021.
Truthfully, I think I planned most of it in about 6 months.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
the 6 months leading up to the wedding.
Yeah. You weren't stressed.
No.
I would ask you, and I didn't see it in your face at all, so.
I was not stressed
She
until.
also hosted a Hanukkah party 3 days before the wedding at our house with 100 and however many people were at the church.
Yeah.
Like 100 and something people were at our
That
house.
was a great
Yeah.
time. That
It
was
really
more stressful
was.
than the
Standing room
wedding.
only.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Hanukkah party was more stressful than the wedding. I was like, there's so many people in my house right now.
Yeah. But
It was
was
fun.
fun. I could tell you were stressed. I really
Yeah.
did for that part, But at the same time, it was so beautiful, and everybody had a good time. There wasn't anybody that felt uncomfortable. You welcomed us in, and it was just such a nice time. It really was.
We love hosting people at our house. We love getting to know other people and fellowshipping with other people. And so it was really a blessing. And it was on a Shabbat. So it was like, we're not going to be wedding planning this day anyways.
Yeah.
So why not? Yeah.
There's nothing we're going to do regarding the wedding. So I was like, why not? It'll be a potluck. And
Yeah.
I think, it was a little overzealous to invite the entire church to the Hanukkah party. But
It's hard not to,
yeah, you don't want anyone to feel
Yeah.
left out by any means, and we certainly didn't want to do that.
I can tell you the trick to that is not be the first one to have the party, because everybody's so eager
Yeah.
to go to a Hanukkah party.
It was
And
the only
then-
day we could host.
Were we the first party?
We were the first
Oh,
night.
okay.
Yeah.
And so then when you get further down the line, everybody's kind of like, oh, we got to go to another one. And people will filter out a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, I agree with that, but it
Yeah.
was the only night we could host.
Right.
And I was like, we have a big house. We should host. We did at the time. And then
yeah,
I was like, we should host some people. And, they made an announcement at church. And I think whole church showed up. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
There were
I
a
can't
solid
think of anyone.
100 plus people there.
Well, and out of state too. Dana came in, 2.5 hour drive
yeah,
from Kansas.
Dana.
Michael
Mike
H.
H came from
Yeah.
Ohio.
I was like, I don't know you, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't met Michael yet at the time. That's funny.
Yeah.
But yes, so wedding planning was not stressful for me. I had so much time during the day at my job.
Yeah.
I would do my work quickly for the day, and my boss was like, look busy. I was like, I can look busy. I've got a wedding to plan.
Yeah.
I would be on the phone with photographers and trying to interview and see which photographer we wanted and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. It was just so funny. I mean, I really did. I was
Yeah.
blessed by so much extra time. So now, while yes, we had so much time to plan, I really planned all of it in 6 months, and I really was not stressed out about the wedding.
Yeah.
So
That was so beautiful. I mean,
until the
they
day
were-
of, and then I was like, oh gosh.
Well, yeah, that's pretty normal. Yeah, that's the normal when they're being very nervous as a new bride.
My sweet friend and wedding planner had her baby the day before.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh
If
yes.
anything could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was glad you weren't a bridezilla and all of that.
I was
It
like,
was-
at the end
it
of the
was
day,
fun.
it's just a celebration, and if we get married, it's a success.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Exactly.
our
Yeah.
bridesmaid, Corinza, and Bear
Yeah.
both had COVID, so she couldn't be in my wedding.
Oh.
And Kayla and John can come. and
Yeah.
John
was
was
his
groomsman.
groomsman.
Yeah.
And Kayla was my wedding planner. So it ended up balancing. But yeah, there were people that we loved that we wish could have been there that
Yeah.
couldn't. And so it was pretty funny
Yeah.
just how it worked out, and crazy the timing of everything, and it was a blessing. I mean,
Yeah.
that whole day was so much fun.
Yeah.
Hey y'all.
So, what Hebrew tradition did you incorporate into your wedding and reception?
Quite a few. Yeah.
We basically, what we had done was, I had done a lot of research on like a traditional Jewish wedding and things that they added, things that they specifically did. So we did things like the huppah was a big one. Although traditionally they do just like a talit, a big talit. I think it's called a talit gadol with poles, and 4 guys will hold it. That's tends to be a very common thing. But we built one, like a lot of people in Messianic circles, we built one out of wood, something that we could potentially put into a backyard as like a
gazebo.
like a gazebo type of thing. Yeah.
We basically took modern tradition, or like traditional things, and made it a little more modernized for
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yes.
It was so nice.
So
I
yeah,
did. I walked around.
We did the hoopah with the 7 times around the hoopah.
Yeah.
What else did
We
we
had
do?
a ketubah.
We used it. Yeah, we did the ketubah. We, drank a cup of wine together to symbolize our covenant.
I made our ketubah.
She made our ketubah.
Wow.
Yeah, it saved us so much money.
I'm trying to think like what other specific traditions.
Buying a
we did.
ketubah is like anywhere from like $400 to $500.
What?
Yeah.
And I made ours for
Ketubahs can be
$20.
extremely
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I decided, I was like, I'll make our ketubah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
But yeah, I remember that we tried to incorporate as many things that were Jewish, if you will, just traditional to the Hebraic wedding idea that we could. That would also connect back to Yeshua,
Right.
and for her family, just normal mainstream Christians, some Catholics, they don't understand fully,
Yeah.
and so I remember we made a pamphlet for the wedding that kind of outlined the ceremony and the significance of how it connected to Jesus
Right.
in different aspects, to help them understand, like, hey, we're still Christians.
Right.
Yeah.
We very much love Jesus Christ, and we follow him with our whole hearts. We just follow him slightly different.
Yeah.
And
What was funny about our wedding is we hosted a Hanukkah party the first day, the first night of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And then the last night of Hanukkah was our wedding, so we
Yeah, that's
hosted
true.
another one.
Yeah.
And we
we
had a menorah table that some people contributed and like brought their menorahs, and we lit our menorahs
Yeah.
the last night, and so that was pretty cool also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just all the way around was fantastic. Yeah. Did you set up courtship instructions for you both to respect when you were dating?
Do you want to start? Or?
When we were dating, we were very much of the world.
Yeah.
So not while we were dating. We really did not understand or I think we both understood to a degree what a courtship was, but we did not participate in a courtship. Once we got engaged, we did set boundaries for ourselves to rededicate ourselves, because we were not pure at the time we had gotten engaged, and so we had to take lots of steps back so that we could try and stay celibate until our marriage.
Yeah.
Well, and
So-
then another big thing was like, I hadn't said this yet, but we both truly believe that Yah brought us together for a reason. Like,
Yes.
even though, maybe the enemy, or, maybe not the enemy, just our flesh even,
Right.
somehow we came together and we allowed, we were both of the world, and we, something Bear likes to say is recovering Babylonians. And we were in Babylon living as Babylonians, and we were called out by the grace of God to follow him. But, and I call out Bear because he made this up, but just the idea of a recovering Babylonian, you think of like recovering alcoholics.
Right.
It's that type, like we're recovering from being in the world for so long, and so we've been dealing with, that fight between the, Babylon or, God, and going back and forth. And at the beginning of our relationship, like we moved in together straight away.
A month.
Like a month in after meeting each other, it was like everyone is crazy.
It
Yeah.
was
But,
crazy.
Like we fell in love.
10 out of 10 don't suggest for anyone.
No.
Yeah, but you guys were in love.
We were very much in love, and it just everything felt right, except for when we, started trying to follow God. We're like, well, our living situation is not ideal, but we're locked into this lease. We, if I move out, like I couldn't afford living alone and helping you pay this lease. Like there was a lot of things. So like we had to go, okay, my daughter's bedroom is now my room, and they move in with Jordan. So it's like Jordan and the girls in one room, me in the other side of the house, and then her sister Mackenzie in between us. And we're just all roommates, and we, her room's off limits to me, my room's off limits to her, that kind of thing. And like we had to just make it work, because we're recovering Babylonians, and we're coming out of the world, and sometimes that removal from the world is painful, and it's sticky, and it's not a clean cut, you know what I mean? So,
Those were some of our biggest boundaries. Because we were living together, we were like, well, I don't think it makes sense, both financially and a few other reasons, for you to move out. But we also cannot live in the same room anymore. So that was a big boundary, was separating our rooms, and just setting that boundary in the beginning. And he moved out not long after we got engaged, maybe a month or so, after we were like, it's really hard to live in the same room. So he moved into the girls' room.
Spiritually, as we were growing more and more, because we were still really new, and
we were like,
very young. We were like, where the balance was, or maybe, I don't remember exactly the details of why, maybe it was just our own flesh getting in the way, but
I mean,
just
the
growing,
temptation in general was too difficult.
We were growing spiritually, and as we grew, we were like, okay, this is wrong. We need to stop this. So as we moved into our courtship, our betrothal time, we were like, okay, we have to set these boundaries. Like you said, we have to follow these certain things until we can, actually be.
Well,
really
and
married.
growing spiritually makes you more physically attracted to your partner anyways. And so the more we were growing spiritually, the more we were like, this is not gonna work. We've got to figure something else out. So we set boundaries as we go. As we ran into problems, we'd be like, nope, this needs to be a boundary, and we'd have to talk about it, set that boundary, and then move on. And so we didn't court, we were in the world, but during our engagement, we kind of set boundaries as we were figuring them out, as we were growing spiritually. So.
Yeah, I had so much respect for you guys for doing that too, because you could have continued on. The situation was already there, you know, but you made changes and you were teachable, and that caused you to grow spiritually so quickly. So quickly. I've learned from you guys, you know, and I've been in it a while, but I still learn more and more things.
Well, that's really sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You guys are awesome. You really are.
We couldn't have done it without our King, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Our flesh is too difficult to do it ourselves.
What advice could you give singles today?
To be as well, just don't be physical. Don't be physical, because you can't. It's so hard. I mean, we did to the best of our ability, but you can't go back. You can't undo what you've already done.
Right.
And so it's worth the struggle to honor your King, honor your bodies, honor your relationships and your partner. Just don't be physical. And I respect Ian and Amy so much. I mean, they hold hands, and
that's all they do.
That's all they do.
Her first kiss is going to be at the wedding.
And
I mean, that's amazing.
I have so much respect for that.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think Ian and Amy are a wonderful example of what singles should be doing and courtship should look like.
Yeah.
Definitely don't do what we did and move in together.
Right. Yeah. And the side hugs, you know, are a good idea as well. We did a show on courtship. If you want to go back through and look at it, Melissa Ray did that with me, and it was, you know, there's some boundaries. They're just simple and simplistic, but they protect the couple.
Yeah.
And it's always up to the couple how much of the courtship do they want to choose to do.
And set those boundaries before
Yeah.
you enter the courtship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that always helps, for sure.
I would also say, just obviously setting those boundaries before you enter, so that they're clear and they're distinguished. Possibly even writing them down, just so you can't go back on something that you said.
Yeah.
But I would also even say, I would say definitely keep the Messiah as the center and pray together. Learn that while you are young and while you are courting, because if you can pray together, you can pray for each other, you can pray with each other, it becomes so much easier to do it in marriage. And that's something that we did not implement while we were engaged as much as we should have, or that's one thing that we didn't really, learn, I guess, or develop. And so for us now, being married, we're trying to go back and start praying together more. And we've definitely done it more, but developing that during courtship is so, it brings your relationship, it focuses with your King in the center, and it sets good habits for you moving forward. So.
Good advice, folks. Good advice that she has. When did you decide that the Bible would dictate what your marriage would look like?
I know for me, when I I guess one of the first things that I allowed the Bible to dictate, or when I started thinking about that, was when I asked her father for her hand in marriage. Because I knew that was the right thing to do, but I also, I was leaning on the Bible for that. It wasn't just, I know that this is the right thing to do, but I'm like, as a Christian, as a Christ follower, the right thing to do is he needs to be okay with me marrying his daughter, because if a woman, if a girl takes an oath, her father can revoke that in the day that he hears it. And so I needed to ask his permission beforehand. That's when I started, and then as we moved forward up to the day I proposed, and then that year and 2 months that we had to we waited to get married. A lot of spiritual growth happened in that time, and growth between us as well in our relationship. There was fights, there was good times, there was hard times, but we grew and we got stronger. And but at the end of the day, every time, whether it was a good time or an argument or a fight, some struggle we had to get through, or good times we enjoyed together, we were trying to keep the Bible at the center of the relationship, and we were trying to keep Yeshua as the center of our relationship. And
Yes.
Obviously we failed, but we were trying our hardest to keep that as the focus throughout our betrothal, throughout up until our wedding day and onward. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, whenever we were starting our relationship, we were not following the Bible. We were very, I believe in God, you believe in God? Both of us believe in God, that's crazy. And then, didn't live that way at all.
Yeah.
But honestly, once we started exploring Torah and understanding what that meant for our life, we kind of grew as keeping that the center as we grew spiritually.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there was necessarily a moment where that was decided, as much as it was as we continued to have a better understanding of the Bible. We continued to implement the Bible's ways in our life, and that's just there was no distinguishable moment. I think just as we grew, we continued to implement more of the Bible into our life. So.
Yeah, you started living it out.
And that's what we do now.
Yeah.
So the more we learn, the more we integrate the Bible into our life.
Sure. Yeah.
So, because you never stop learning, and I don't think we should ever stop growing. And so the moment we stop learning and growing is the moment we're dead.
Yeah, that's how you need to look at it, isn't it? Yeah. So, how do you both handle disagreements? Because those come about at times.
Mm-hmm.
At times, not the best.
Yeah.
Sometimes
to be
we're
honest,
bad at it.
we still deal with the flesh, but we. When we came into a relationship, I did not know how to deal with disagreements. I didn't know how to argue. I didn't know how to fight fair. And that's something that she had to teach me, was to be able to fight fair, to be, I don't know, even the best way to say that, other than fighting fair. Yeah. Not throwing things in the other person's face,
right.
Keeping the argument topical to what you're actually speaking about, and not letting your emotion or anger take over. Although at times there's those things did get in the way. Obviously, they happen sometimes. But the best way that we've figured out to deal with disagreements is just sitting down and actually getting to talk it through.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times, and even in my own past, is you just let it boil up and leave it alone until that explosion happens, and then you just and so I know her helping me talk through things definitely helped us in the long run. So,
Yeah.
I learned a lot of how to fight from my grandparents, and
grandparents are so good about that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she always taught me. She always said a couple of things to me. Learn how to fight fair. And at the time, she was talking about, with my sister, Mackenzie. But as I got older, she was like, "No, that's for your spouse too. I mean, that's got to be something that's in every relationship you have. You fight fair."
Yeah.
And then she also told me, oh gosh, what is that other thing I say all the time? My pregnancy brain. It's
give me a hint. I'll find it.
Something that she
Read my
says all
mind.
the time.
She does. She says it all the time. I say it all the time because my grandma always said it to me.
Fight fair and.
If I think of it, I'll say it. But
Okay.
another part of sorry, this baby man.
Yeah, it's just baby
Rude.
brain. Baby brain.
But yeah, just not bringing up. If we're fighting about something, keep it on that subject and don't continue to bring in things to continue to make the argument swell. There are times where we'll argue and I can feel myself personally getting upset or heated, and I'll just stop talking and I'm like, Adam, I just need a couple of minutes so I don't say something out of anger, to just calm down and to just calm myself down. Give me a couple of minutes to myself. Let me sit in the bathroom, we're in the room, and just calm down.
Yeah.
And then we can revisit the conversation. Sometimes I don't voice that, and then Adam's like, "Why aren't you talking?" And I'm like, "I just need to calm down." And so I've gotten better at voicing that so that he can understand where I'm at, and then we can continue to have a conversation about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Fruits of the Spirit play a big part in my idea of fighting. Just trying to remember love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing because
That's good.
sometimes it's hardest to do and have those fruits with your spouse.
Yeah.
Just because you're so connected to your spouse. It's hardest, I would say it's hardest almost to have that with your spouse and with your kids.
Yeah.
And so I have to continually remind myself, where are my fruits? Where are my fruits? What fruit am I lacking right now? And so I think we have continued to get better. There is always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Always. But we have gotten a lot better at fighting fair. And in times of disagreement, I think something that has worked really well is for just take, 3, 4, 5 minutes, take a breather, and then come back and revisit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never going to bed angry. I think we've maybe done that one time ever.
Ecclesiastes says, don't let the sun go down on your anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I really hold true to that too. There's
Yeah.
something about, something very small that just kind of hits you a different way, and you don't say anything, and then by morning, it seems like this huge thing that's
Right.
come, and I don't know why that happens that way, but it does. So, okay. For you both, how do you go about making decisions?
Typically we have a conversation about it. If it's a pretty cut and dry decision to make, we'll just make it together and Adam will make whatever decision needs to be made. I think, truthfully, it depends on the decision and the weight of the decision that needs to be made. Sometimes Adam will bring something to me and I will have something opposing what he says. I will give him my opinion, and but ultimately the final decision is always his, and I respect that. I just appreciate the fact that he hears me out and he listens to me, and then I respect him being the head of our house and making the decision that he thinks is best for our family, and then we follow that. So
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times that decision ends up being her decision that I agree with.
Yeah,
Because,
because
I
it
mean,
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean, I'm not a tyrant. You know, I don't think biblical headship is tyrannical in any sense of the word.
Right, that's right.
I think that I think biblical headship just means I bear the responsibility of the decisions that are made.
Yeah.
And so.
And that's why the final decision is always his.
Because I bear that responsibility
Yeah.
for what it does to our family or our finances or whatever it is. So yeah, I almost never make a big decision alone. I mean,
Yeah.
And then with minor, a lot of times with like minor decisions, things like that, like we know each other well enough that we would, and then that we are okay with whatever decision's made. And then if we make a decision the other one doesn't like, I think a big thing that helps us out is not getting overly upset about a decision that you disagree with.
Yeah.
If it's something minor, like a minor financial decision, or I'm just trying to think of like different things, like I don't know, stuff like that.
There's lots of
So,
examples.
But talking it through is a good idea.
Yeah, talking
Yeah.
it through is definitely helps us.
So
Just
what's your?
making
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
you're
No,
fine.
I don't want to go on to another one.
No,
If you
you're
got it.
fine. It's just always making sure that communication is open.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest part. That's something that we worked on a lot together,
Yeah.
and that has helped the fighting, has helped the, everything. Communication literally solves all of your problems.
Yeah.
I stand 100% behind that.
Well, and I'd also say shout out to Lex and Amanda Meyer because they,
Yeah.
their pre-marriage counseling, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was extremely helpful, and it wasn't just like you guys think you're good to bet. You guys think you guys are going to be good together. Like, are you guys okay with doing this or that? It wasn't just like basic questions. It was like
Working through
real life scenarios, and like when it gets to situations like who's taking care of the money,
Right.
and who's what's your marital life like, and all these types of things, like questions that aren't normally talked about, but they help you get a real idea of what each one's expectations are moving into the marriage.
That's really
and so
good.
that's really important. But the basis of all of that is communication.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I really just shout out to them because I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Lex and Amanda are such good examples too.
Yes.
They live it out in front of us.
Yes,
And it's
exactly.
it's beautiful. They are the same, whether it's a live feed or whether it's real life.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Exactly.
And
Well, I'd also like to give credit to the book Love and Respect.
Yeah.
I think once we understood biblical love and biblical respect and implemented that into our lives,
Yeah.
and we're still working on it daily.
and what's the name of the book called?
Love and
Yeah, it's
Respect.
Called Love and Respect. Yeah, I will say for us, that book helped us out. I know some people.
I'll put that in the descriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some people don't like that book as a marriage guide, but and it also depends on your dynamic between your marriage and your relationship, I think. But that basic idea of men desire respect and women desire love
Right.
as a as the thing
Security.
that- yeah, and so that basic idea helped us because obviously she still deserves respect and I still need love.
Right.
Yes.
But I think, me personally, as Adam saw as a man, I respect is that thing. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm missing. If it ever is missing, and
Yeah.
if she feels unloved, like that's a big thing for her.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in our relationship, that book, worked great, and it's helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
It's helped our dynamic a lot. Once we read that, truthfully, I only read half of it because of.
Well, yeah, it's only like half for one, half for the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I only read about half the book to really understand what it was talking about. It was a little repetitive, in my opinion. But the premise of the book was amazing.
Yeah.
And once I understood that I need to unconditionally respect my husband,
Yeah.
because while he deserves unconditional love, I give that already.
Yeah.
But I also need to unconditionally respect him.
Right.
And so once I understood that and understood that I was not already doing that, yeah, it's helped our relationship quite a bit, I think. And him vice versa, him saying, I'm not giving you unconditional love, I'm giving you unconditional respect, because that's what men naturally give, is what the book basically says.
Yeah.
So it really helped us a lot.
So, what's your best advice for those who are courting?
Good boundaries
Yeah.
are extremely important, like what you talked about earlier.
Write them down.
Write them down and stick to them. I would also say inside those boundaries, and this is just our personal thought, but I know it's something I wish I would have done from from the time I started dating anyone, was save yourself 100% for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are in that, if you have that ability, and don't kiss, don't go too far, even in the hugging and that kind of, like, grow your friendship, your relationship
Yeah.
in that way first.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep God at the center. If you're courting, keep God at the center. Grow your friendship
Yeah.
and that relationship, that side of your relationship. And as you guys grow in your relationship and you decide this is the person I would like to marry, you just don't break certain boundaries, because then it leaves way,
It cheats you.
Temptation
Yeah.
and sin.
It cheats you in your relationship and your
Yes.
future marriage. It cheats it. And you've got the rest of your life to explore each other physically, and try not to let that be the focus, the physical, but let the
Right.
spiritual and emotional be more of a focus, and especially to have Yeshua in the center.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Get advice, spend time, couple
Yes.
to couple, with older
Yes.
couples, people
That
that have been
definitely
together.
Yeah.
People that have been married 10 plus years.
Yeah,
something
even
like
people that have
yeah.
been
Yeah.
like,
Well,
spend however long you're courting, spend, once every 2 weeks or a month, meet with a couple that has been together. First start with 5 years, then go to like 7 or 8 years, then go to 10 years, and then go to 15, and then go to 20, 30, however long you're courting.
Yeah.
Spend time learning from these people, because they have been through more than you could possibly imagine going through in a marriage. I mean, anywhere from getting advice on how to, on anything, but family planning, or how to handle arguments, or how to stop arguing in your marriage completely,
Yeah.
how to handle having a miscarriage or a stillbirth, or just things like that. Just spend time with your elders, because they have so much knowledge and they have so much wisdom. And we didn't go one-on-one with people, but we did ask a lot of questions during marriage.
Oh, that was good.
The
marriage
seminars,
seminars during
Shavuot.
one was Shavuot and one was Sukkot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we went to both of those. We asked a lot of questions before we got married. We're probably, the next one they do, we'll probably go to that too, because you should never stop learning and growing in your marriage. But I think that is something that I wish we had done, more than just the marriage Q&As that were hosted.
Yeah. So what would you give advice to married couples who have been married for a while? I know I learn from you guys all the time, so you gotta have some advice.
don't forget laughter.
Yeah.
Laughter is so important in a marriage, and if you cannot laugh with your partner, then you're going to be pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And you have to remember why you were married in the first place. And I'm saying this, I can look back on this video in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
This is
What are you
advice to my
telling me?
future self. Don't forget why you got married in the first place, and the trials and tribulations that you go through. Look back and hold on to how you started and where you've come from. If you're missing passion in your marriage, where did that passion, where was it sparked in the beginning?
Yeah.
And how can you re-implement that into your marriage? How
That's beautiful.
can you grow in that way and revert back to things that you used to do but you stopped doing because you just
Right.
grew out of it?
Yeah.
One thing I would say is just when Paul talks about what love is, one thing that always has stuck out to me is love holds no record of wrongs.
Yes.
And
That's good.
that's something that I was always really bad at, is holding record of wrongs. And I did not love properly. And that's one of those things that I have to hold on to firmly, that I will not throw the past in her face, and I will not hold on to the past in such a way that I can become bitter or anything like that,
Yeah.
because I know that is something that as married, in marriage it becomes a difficult thing to do, to not do rather. Our flesh, like I said earlier, our flesh gets in the way, and that for me, that's one thing that sticks out a lot is not holding a record of wrongs,
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to forgive, and
That's great advice.
I would also say, are you praying together? Are you praying together on a consistent basis?
Right. Yeah.
Because oftentimes marriages fall apart because they're not keeping God in the center of it.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to implement prayer in our marriage together so early, is because we do not believe in divorce at this. Obviously, I know you've been divorced, but we don't believe in divorce. And so keeping God in the center of our marriage and continuing to pray together even when you don't feel like it that day or whatever, that's probably because you haven't been doing it and you need it in your marriage. And so just, are you praying together? Are you spending that time intimate with the Father? Because if you're intimate with the Father and you are keeping him at the center of your marriage,
Right.
you're probably going to be intimate in your marriage as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Wow, good advice we're getting here, folks. Let's pay attention to this. This is good. Is there any other comments that you all would like to speak about that I didn't get with my questions? Is there anything else that you would close with?
Do you have something?
I don't think so. I mean, I think those questions were great, and I think that it helped remind us of a lot of things. Like, it's hard to believe that we're newlyweds just because we're about to have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys went on fast forward for
we
the
sure
minute.
did.
Yeah.
We sure
We
did.
were extremely ready.
We were, yeah. We had no problem having a baby as soon as we were married. Neither of us. So.
Yeah.
I did have one thing that I wanted to just talk about was in our relationship with Yeshua, and we are the believers are the bride of Christ. So just that idea of that dynamic that we have, where we're called to love our wives like Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Those types of things, at least from a man's perspective, that's a thing that I hold on to a lot. I am that, I've heard it said I'm the Messiah figure in my family. Like, I am the best representation that my children are going to have of Christ in a father, in a leader. And so my goal is to do the best. Obviously I fail, but my goal is to emulate Messiah the best I can. Just like, Deuteronomy talks about in the Shema, it tells us to, teach our children diligently these things that, as we lie down, as we wake up, as we, go out, as we come in, all of that types of things, all of those types of things, like, are connected to that idea of being that head over our family and being in that spiritual role of that leader, of Messiah-like figure in our individual families, the priest of the home, some people will say as well. And so just that especially in the New Testament, that idea of Christ, Yeshua in the church, and that bridegroom and bride relationship that's conveyed throughout, I think is important to keep in mind. Like, wives submit to their husbands as we choose to serve Yeshua. But with that, men have to step up and not be tyrants in our homes, be loving people who are going to lay our lives down for our wives, for our families. It takes both. It doesn't just take submission from one and tyranny from the other. It's both at the same time. It's loving kindness. In Hebrew it's that chesed, like that loving kindness that God shows his people, whether they deserve it or not. That's what we should be doing as leaders in our homes. And wives, obeying, but you know what I mean, like submitting to but not it to be like, treated poorly, but to be someone that submits willingly, like we are supposed to be to Yeshua. Yeah. And I think that, not to get too long-winded, but I think that also helps in our own personal, as men, putting ourselves in that position of the wives, because that's where we're at in our relationship with Yeshua. As bondservants, that's what we're called to be, as bondservants. All of the apostles, open up the epistles saying things like, Peter, a bondservant of Jesus Christ. Paul, a bondservant of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, that bondservant is this idea of that submitting out of love and respect for your master or your leader or whoever that is. And so I can understand the role of my wife in that I am also a bondservant to my master, to my king, to my savior. And she is she submits to me out of love and respect.
Right.
And, it's just this beautiful...
To go with that, the best example, the best imagery I have ever been given of what biblical marriage should look like, and the advice I was given and the imagery I was given, I believe it was by Amber Thornborough, and she said, your marriage is a table. Your man, your husband, your spouse, is the tabletop. And you cannot both be the tabletop. You cannot both be in control. You cannot both be the tabletop. You, as the wife, are the legs. You are holding the table up. You are just as important as the tabletop, because without the legs, everything falls off the table. But as the structure of the table, if you are trying to be the tabletop and the table legs, your table will fall, your table will crash, and your table will crumble. Your table will not be able to hold things. Your table, as the table legs, you are just as important as the tabletop. My role in this marriage is just as important as Adam's role, as my husband's role. But it's different. And my job is to support my husband and to make sure that I am covering where he is lacking in his armor. That's another good example I was given by Amanda Meyer. And your job as the wife is to watch out for his 6 you know, where he may be lacking in his armor, you know, the armor of God
Yeah.
that it talks about in Ephesians. You know, if his breastplate of righteousness is lacking, you step into that role until he is back up on his feet and he is able to cover that himself.
Wow.
If your helmet of salvation is lacking, that's where you need to step in as the wife. And so your job as the wife is just as important as the husband's job, but it's different. Your job is not to be the same as your husband. It is supposed to be supportive of your husband, and just as important. And I think that's a lot of people forget, or if I say something like that, a lot of people don't recognize that they think I'm saying my husband's more important, or my role as a wife is just like a slave, and I by no means am a slave to anyone but Christ.
Yeah.
So my role is just as important as his role, and I really look up to those two examples specifically that I'm given.
Yeah.
Those two pieces of imagery that I was given are such an important staple in our marriage, especially in my portion, and how I think of our marriage. And it's so important. Also, I remembered what my grandma said. Oh no, I forgot it again. No. Oh no. Okay. She said, pick your battles.
Oh, yeah.
Pick your battles. Is this really worth fighting about?
Yeah.
Is this worth arguing about?
Yeah.
Pick your battles. Is whatever this is about worth your argument?
Yeah. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so she always used to say, pick your battles, Jordan. Pick your battles. I'm like,
well, thank you both so much for coming today and doing this with me. You guys are so fantastic. I just love you both. Would you be willing to come back for another?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for having us.
This is a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for coming. I mean, I'm just so serious about that. I love you two very much.
We love you.
So, it's done again. We've had a lot of good advice, and all I can say now is just enjoy God's journey.